And now, without any further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome Reverend Angela Geary.
Thanks, everybody. So good to be here, to have a moment of connection. That was so beautiful. Thank you. I could cry, actually, you know? It's that depth that brings you in to the truth. It's so simple. So simple. What the world needs now is love, love, love. It's what it's always needed. It's what it's always going to need. And it's simple and not always easy to love. Not always easy to stay in our oneness. Let's just put it that way. So anyway. So I have to say, Sylvia, when you mentioned my humor, I felt a little pressure to be funny all of a sudden. Like I noticed, you know, how the ego comes up. It's like, oh, I'm humorous? Can I pull up a joke or something here or there? But so I'm just going to be myself. I noticed that coming up. All right. So we're going into December, and I love this time of year because I love talking about Jesus the mystic or the revolutionary, you know, Jesus the ascended master, not so much the Christian story, although that works, that's fine. And he just taught us so much about love. That was the teaching, that no matter what is going on in our life, no matter what the difference is, no matter whether we're being condemned or abused or treated incorrectly, to come from that place of love always. And he really taught us how to be human and how to be divine all at the same time. That's the other reason I love him, is that he walked here on earth and he lived in that Christ consciousness, right? So for me, the key to entering into the Jesus story, whether we believe it historically or not, whether we believe in the man, it's to see it as the myth that it is, to see it as the journey of transformation, the journey of us stepping into the truth of the divine light that we're born to be. The divinity that lives inside each and every one of us. How spirit, how infinite love pours itself into the incarnate world. How everything is ablaze and alive in spirit. You know, he said, you know, the kingdom of heaven is spread upon the earth and you cannot see it. Ernest Holmes said, we believe in God, the living spirit, almighty one, indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by it. Simple. God is all there is. Love is all there is. Spirit is all there is. Spirit is in each and every one of us. Spirit is in all sentient beings, no matter how they're behaving, no matter whether we agree with them or not, no matter what. The divine spark, the infinite light of spirit. And can we stand solid on that belief and that thought? How do we bring that which we know to be true to a world that looks like separation and some upheaval and some devastation and some separation, right? So what the other thing I love about the Jesus story is that often in spirituality, and sometimes a little bit, I have to say, I love religious science and science of mind teaching, but sometimes it's a little about transcending the human experience. Just rise above it. Just go to joy when you're feeling sad. Forget the sadness. Just, you know, shove down that anger and that disappointment, because you are the harmony and you are the peace and you are the love of spirit. And that is true. And there's room for both of those things. I think Jesus gave us he's the example and not the exception. a role model of how to be, so to speak, in the world and yet not necessarily of it, to be both, to be human and to be divine, and to show us another way that we can walk through, to use our trials and tribulations, to use perhaps those very things that bring us to our knees, to use them to serve for our awakening, to use those things to come back to these teachings, these principles, these spiritual truths that we know, to rely on them, not to bypass them, not to pretend they're not happening, not to pretend we're not deeply disturbed by any of it, but not to buy into what's going on in this world as the only deal in town. Really, it's not. There's a parallel universe. There's a universe of love and freedom and spirit and infinite possibility and divine grace and beauty and balance. And that's what we recognize. Beyond the world of form, all is well. And that we, you and I, live in these bodies that get sick sometimes, that hurt sometimes. We live with these thoughts sometimes that are of the highest, and I'll just speak for me, and sometimes of the lowest, the low thoughts. We have these feelings that are all over the place sometimes. And yet, and all of that body, thoughts, feelings moves and changes and shifts all the time. And what remains steady and constant and essential and true and unmoving within us all is the light of spirit, is the love that the world needs now, is the peace beyond all understanding, is the wholeness, is the well-being, is the beauty that is not touched or affected or altered or perturbed or disturbed by any appearance of dis-ease, by any appearance of separation or disaster or devastation. So we walk with both of these parts of ourselves. This is what Jesus showed us, to be divine and to be human. And it's not about getting out of the challenges of life, because life is always going to be challenging. That's not the idea of these teachings, is that we get to a place where we never suffer. Be lovely. It's to learn how to use the teachings to navigate through, right? To be with, to know that the divinity that we are is greater than even our most dire suffering and struggle. So here's a metaphor for the divine that lives within us all. Jesus is the human being who came to the River Jordan like you and I. He got called to something, and he got called to be baptized by John the Baptist, this rebel guy. And as he came out of the water, Jesus said he saw the spirit of a dove descending down upon him. He shifted in that moment. I would like to say that his Christ consciousness, the divine light that he was, got revealed itself in that moment, and he was lifted. So we have Jesus the person and Christ consciousness. We have you and I the person and our divine infinite light consciousness. And we can walk with both of those. That's what he showed us. When we see the story in this way, it comes alive, because we haven't separated ourselves from divine being itself. That's what he's showing us. Heaven and earth are brought together where they have always belonged. And to me, that's where love is born. Universal love is born when heaven and earth come together. when divinity and humanity come together. We can then really, truly embody that true potential to pour forth the redeeming presence of divine love into every aspect of our life. That's our calling right now. How can we stand in that? How can we keep that solid thought of spirit is all there is? I am one with spirit. Therefore, every one and every sentient being are one with spirit too. We come back to that again and again and again. And the story is also about the deep, profound experience of being human, about coming to grips with the frailness and sometimes imperfect parts of the human nature. I always love to say we're perfect with a capital P in spirit always. And we're imperfect in our beautiful humanness. Of course we are. And that's what's lovely about each and every one of us. We're perfect in spirit always. So we have to align. We're called right now, I feel, to love and to align with the oneness that we all are. That's what Jesus did. Aligned with the oneness of spirit within, around, through, and as him, and aligned in his oneness with all beings, no matter what their behavior, no matter what their profession, no matter what, there's a oneness there. And you know, Einstein says we can't solve the problem with the same mind that created it. And that's true personally, and that's true collectively. And the mind that created the challenge, I think, that we're in, and really, if we look at perhaps any relationship challenges we have, if we look collectively at what's going on in the world right now, the mind that created it is a mind of separation, of division, of us and them, of my way, of your way, of the right way, let's breathe, and the wrong way, right? Those thoughts grab us. The Buddhists called it othering. How we other, someone else is other all of a sudden. They're other, and then we don't see them as the precious, unique, bright, shining star, loving expression of spirit that they are. Let's breathe. This is not easy. And underneath that othering, underneath that going into separation is unprocessed fear. We're scared. We're scared. And that's okay too. Caught in that mentality, I can put my hand up of my side and your side. And my side's right, quite honestly. And your side is clearly wrong, man, right? There's no, like, what are you thinking, we might say, right? So we get to practice. Really, there's a beauty here. There's a beautiful opportunity in what's going on in the world for us to practice what we have always known to be true. To put it into practice is a whole different thing. It's a whole different thing. There's a funny little story about going into othering. A teacher was teaching the students about whales and saying that a whale could never swallow a human being because their throats are too narrow. And one little girl put her hand up and said, well, Jonah was swallowed by a whale. And the teacher said, well, I don't know about that. You know, that was just a story. Whales can't swallow human beings. And the teacher said, the little girl said, well, when I go to heaven, I'm going to ask God whether a whale can swallow a human being. And the teacher said, well, You don't know if you're going to go to heaven. You may go to hell. And the student replied back, well, then you can ask him. Othering, right? Othering. But that's a cute little story. And that's kind of sometimes how we are, how I am. I can't speak for all of you. I'm sure you're all gracious and wonderful with everything, right? But the more we feel threatened, the more hostility and aggression comes up in us. Feel threatened right now, I think. Comes up. So if we go back to Einstein, right? On some, and to some degree, let's just take the election. It matters who wins the election, clearly. We're here in this form, doing this life. It matters, and it affects us all. We know that. But the only real hope is a radical shift in consciousness. It's not the candidate winning or losing. It's changing our thinking. It's standing on the solid thought of oneness and unity and connectedness. It's moving from us and them to that sense of belonging, core respect for all forms. It's calling us to come back to our oneness. I know so many people who are in breakdown and not talking with friends and family members, and breathe in if you're one, it's okay, there's no judgment. But this is what's happening. We cannot let anything, no thing divide us. We can disagree. Yeah, she's saying, amen, sister, amen. We come back to, yeah. Because you know what? When we love, we win. When we love, we win. Simple as that. We can come back to that. What would love do now? It's a simple question to keep asking ourselves. To allow ourselves to go through whatever we need to go through. We're having quite a little party with all the dogs right now, right? And this is what Jesus and Gandhi and Nelson Mandela, this is what they demonstrated, this is what they showed us, right? Radical love can emerge during stressful time. It wasn't easy for Gandhi, for Martin Luther King, for Nelson Mandela, for all they went through. It was stressful, just like it is us. And the choosing was standing on solid ground, on solid thought of there is only one of us here. Love is all there is. What the world needs now is love. I'm standing on love. I'm committed to that. I stand for something and I stand against nothing. No thing. Aligning ourselves with the truth of our oneness, no matter who we vote for, no matter what we think. That person, everybody is a radiant spirit. Brené Brown says, people are hard to hate close up. Meaning, like, perhaps it's been your neighbor that has rushed over to take you to the hospital when you need it, or has made a beautiful bowl of hearty, healthy soup when you need it. And in those moments, we don't care who they voted for. In those moments, we don't care what their spiritual beliefs are, what their political beliefs are, what their social beliefs. It's people coming together to love, to serve. There's no separation in that. There's those poignant moments that we see when people who have survived tragedies together, right? Hurricanes and earthquakes and floods. We see beautiful stories of people coming together to serve, to be together. Tara Brach tells a lovely story of two men standing on a bridge after the floodings. And they were from opposite ends. I think it was before the election, as we know. And clearly from opposite ends, because there were bumper stickers and hats involved and all of that indicated. And those two men were standing there, both with devastating hearts, looking at the damage that had happened to their community. And they turned to each other and they hugged and held each other. There's only one love, one heart, one shared suffering. Let's breathe. We get to practice. We're practicing aligning with oneness. We're practicing choosing love, asking, what would love do? And so stressors and suffering can awaken us. That's the bodhisattva, right? That's their aspiration. May this very situation, may this thing serve to awaken my heart. That's a beautiful aspiration. How can we use what's going on in our own personal lives and in the life of our country and the world to awaken a heart of compassion and awareness? How can we? It's a journey. Stressors can grow us. I know there's a couple of you in the room who've heard me say some of these things before, but they're always good to hear again and again and again, right? Tara Brach again reminds us that trees grow heartwood. It's a fiber that they grow in the wood so that they can withstand the wind. So that trees sway and go with the wind, but they are not broken by them. We can develop heartwood within our own beings. We resource ourselves. We stand like the tree, rooted, grounded. And our branches, the Christ consciousness, the divine light, infinite source, whatever we want to call it, spirit, within us are the branches of the trees reaching out into that universal love, into that eternity, into that energy of beauty and balance and peace. Thich Nhat Hanh, it's that same thing, no mud, no lotus. No mud, no lotus. In order for the beauty of the lotus to emerge, it has to be in the mud first. All of these things remind us. May feel like we're in the mud and the muck a little bit right now. May feel like we need a lot of heartwood inside of us. But we're strong and resilient. A new consciousness, I believe, at the same time as all of this is happening. There's a new consciousness being born within us. There's a new consciousness almost being downloaded. If we create time to be still and quiet, we can almost feel it coming through. Something new, a rebirth. Homo luminous within us is being born. It is said we're moving from Homo sapiens, man, people who know, to Homo luminous, light beings. Light beings. All that's happening. And can we allow that transformation to happen within us? Can we let that download happen and let go? This is what it's an opportunity. Some of the false beliefs and doubts and fears that have gripped us, and stand on solid thoughts of oneness. And perhaps, and rightly so, we're feeling the pain and fear of these times. It's like a societal earthquake underneath our feet, right? But perhaps it's an opportunity to bring us all together in a deeper way, to awaken in us our caring for the greater good, for the greater good. Let's breathe in and breathe out. So I think the questions I invite you just to live into and be with no judgment. Where am I in separation and fear? Where are my thoughts in separation and fear? Who am I making other? Where am I constricting? Where am I not living the teachings and the principles of love, of oneness, of unity? And again, gentle with ourselves. We're human. We're human. This is tough. Tough earth school right now. And everything we feel is valid. But let's feel it and be with it and remember the truth of who we are and ask ourselves the hard question. And how can I see our shared belonging? How can I see the oneness that we're all here for? And then to remember the aspiration. May this circumstance, may this very situation serve to awaken compassion and wisdom within me. Because it can. Suffering can deepen us. Suffering can open us to the love and the wisdom and the harmony and the peace and the beauty of spirit within us. We can allow it. We can work with it. I told this story on Thursday night too, but it's a Thich Nhat Hanh story. Perhaps you know it. That during the Vietnam War, he and many other young monks were dedicated to love and to serve everybody that was going through, they served medically, with food, with shelter, helping those that were suffering. And they refused to take sides. They helped everybody, refused to take sides. And the U.S. suspected them of being Viet Cong, and the Viet Cong considered them the enemy. And one day, the encampment with the young monks and nuns was bombed. And all but a few died in that bombing. And they were asked to make a statement. And the statement was the perpetrators were forgiven. It was done out of ignorance. They were not taking sides. Thich Nhat Hanh said, we are not taking sides in our heart. Not taking sides in our heart. Because he knew we don't violate when we know the truth of our belonging and our oneness. Let's take a breath. This is big. It's Jesus. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's how we see unskilled behavior. That's how we work with stuff like that. If Thich Nhat Hanh can do it, if Nelson Mandela can do it with the guards who, in the prison, if Gandhi can do it, if Martin Luther King can do it, we can do it. Because what we know is anyone who would bomb in an encampment of nuns and monks is not in their right mind. They are not standing on a solid thought anchored in consciousness of oneness and belonging. They are not seeing the infinite light, the love of spirit within themselves, and they're certainly not seeing it within anybody else. On some level, we recognize everybody is doing the best they can with the level of consciousness that they're at. And that doesn't mean we condone it. And it doesn't mean we keep speaking to people that abuse us. And it doesn't mean there isn't retribution. And it doesn't mean we don't have feelings around it. Not taking sides in our heart. He said humans are not the enemy. The forces of fear and illusion that has us forget that we belong to each other. That's the enemy. The forces that forget that have us forget that we're all one heart, one love. Let's take a breath. So just lastly, I think, talking about standing on solid thoughts. To have the faith of God that we are, the faith of Spirit, the faith in things unseen, to trust in things unseen. This right now is an opportunity to put our faith in something higher, to trust that the divine plan is unfolding. All is divinely orchestrated. All is exactly as it's meant to be. It's messy right now. We're in the mud. And we can breathe. We can resource ourselves. We can go back to our teachings. We can hang tight to Spirit. We can hang tight to each other and trust. Birth is messy. There's contraction and expansion. There's pain. And there's new life that comes as a result of that. We're in a birthing process collectively. And there's contraction and there's expansion. And the beautiful lotus of oneness and love is being born within each one of our hearts and each one of our souls. Let's breathe in. I'm going to end with, I know I've gone over a little. Finishing up now. Okay. I'll end with this quote by L.R. Nost. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. So let us pray. I'll do a quick prayer. Let's take a breath in to the light. Where do we feel that light of Spirit? Some feel it in their heart space. Let's imagine ourselves as a magnificent tree. Our roots emanating from our tailbone or from the soles of our feet, going way down to the center of the earth. Let's feel ourselves grounded. The roots of the trees down there with us. We're grounded in our humanity. We're held by the groundedness and love and compassion of Mother Earth. And let's imagine our branches, the branches of Spirit, of that infinite love, of that light, of that peace that we're born to be, reaching up and out. And let's imagine all our branches coming together, all the branches of Spirit in this room coming together. Our branches are all touching. And then imagine those branches spreading out beyond this room. One heart, one love, one power, one presence. Ever present, everywhere in everyone and everything. This parallel universe, steady, consistent, true. living in me and living and moving and having its being through each and every one here, and living and moving and having its being through all sentient beings, whether they know it or not. And sometimes, yes, that divine light is heavily disguised, but we are not fooled by disguised. We are not fooled by appearances. We know the light of spirit is alive in every nook and cranny of this universe of ours, in all beings. And so I'm just knowing for us today that we remember these principles, these teachings. Spirit is all there is. What the world needs now is love, and more love. What we are is love. God is love. Love is God. We came from love. We are love. And love heals, and love restores, and love renews, and love regenerates. So we love ourselves. We love each other. We love those we perceive to be in disagreement with or see as enemy or other. We love spirit, infinite source itself. How grateful I am that we can use our suffering to awaken ourselves to the divine nature that we're born to be. I give thanks for knowing that the light within us is greater than the darkness, that the love within us is far greater than fear, that unity is greater than any appearance or thought of separation. Grateful. I release my word. I release all of our highest intentions because I feel that high intention in this very room. So I release it to the very soul of the universe, the law of attraction that's already said yes to it. And I put my faith in the unseen. I put my faith in the words of truth I have spoken. And I can rest now and give all to God this day and give all to love this day. And so it is. Amen.